Okay, just wanted to open up again and let everyone know that the Royal Priesthood is back up again. I want to start this video by saying, in the name of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushai, and all salutations to all the brothers out there. I like a lot of brothers from GMS. I watch a lot of their videos. I watch a lot of brothers from IUIC, which most people will think that those two are opposing views, but each their own. Hoy, the House of Israel, they're one of my favorites. Priesthood Pt2, all compliments to him. I also watch Priest Khan, Shawapa, Army of Israel, Shah, like the list goes on. The Sons of Yahweh, and all, the prisoners of Yahushai, one body in Yahushai. Yafta is mighty beast on that microphone for one body. He's really how do you say it? This man is a warrior. You can see the warrior spirit, and that Lion of Zion is really in his spirit. So I wanted to bring out, last time it was like an introduction, but I wanted to bring out a few scriptures. This is just in regards to the feel of the vibes of the days that we're living in, and I wanted to share a few scriptures in regards to the whole world is pretty much thinking that salvation is for everybody. Salvation is not for. It's not only for Israel, but it's for all the other nations. But it's clearly stated in the Bible that not all the other nations are going to have the salvation that Israel is going to have, because that salvation is unique. If everyone was going to have salvation, then salvation wouldn't be needed. And what would they need to be saved for? So there's a lot of different doctrines out there, but I like to just open up. This is a scripture that is also used in reference to one of the scriptures that is used to deceive the masses, which is John 3:16. This scripture, he cuts that to that doctrine of the world, because he goes into the specific. He goes to specifically and hone in on the word world. It actually hones in on it and describes Israel as being a word. So I'm going to read it. This is Isaiah 45 and verse 17. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded. World without end. Now this is the world that's being referred to in the scriptures, John 3:16. We'll go to it now, just while we're here. Okay, but in regards to salvation, this is the only nation that is going to get salvation, and it's the only nation that really needs salvation. All the other nations are living deliciously. They're drinking of that wine, of the American wine. They're all under philosophies. And every single other nation, they've got their religion, they've got their own government, they've got their own economy, they've got their own economy, they've got their military, they've got all of the essentials that a nation needs. All of the other nations have, except for the children of Israel, which are the blacks, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the most trodden people on the planet Earth. They don't have that. So. And it's indicative, because when you look at the United Nations, who's with the United Nations, and let's just use America for example. America is supposedly a leading nation, or the leader of the free world, so-called free world. And if America is such this beacon of hope and freedom and all of that, okay, I like to pose a question for the America out there. If America is such a great place and it's got a beacon of hope, I'd like to know, in the United Nations States of America, who's out there representing the Native Americans who had their land stolen and been trodden down and decimated and damn near genocided on? Who's out there speaking for the blacks? Who's out there speaking for the black people that are in that country that are completely oppressed for over 400 years of oppression, constant oppression, underneath the boot of the so-called white man? Who's speaking for the atrocities that is being done to those people? Not only murdered, over 100 million of them murdered on the way to the Americas, but still lynched, Jim Crow, all of the laws and policies that are against them, and all of the things, atrocities that are committed to me, and also the Hispanics or the so-called Mexicans who used to own California, Texas. All of those lands belong to those Mexicans, but nowadays they are being called aliens and their kids are being deported and separated from their parents. Okay, their parents are being deported or they're being stripped away from their parents. Okay, who's speaking for them? There's no one in the United Nations creating an army or getting NATO to go to America to bomb American Parliament and to dethrone Donald Trump because of the policies that he's encouraging in his own country. But then that same nation can go to Iraq, Iran, on Iraq, can go to Afghanistan, can go to Pakistan, can go to Egypt, can go to Libya, can go to Syria, can go to all of these other nations and say that they're not doing anything right and we need to go in there and fix it. When they've got all of these downtrodden people in their own country. This is the pinnacle of hypocrisy. This is the pinnacle of the most downtrodden and satanic government on the planet Earth. Okay? But judgment is getting close. That's why Donald Trump is, at this very moment as we speak, he's already set up a committee to begin the development of a space force. Now, it's not going to be just a space force. Understand these people. It's in the space armed force to fight against the second coming of our Messiah, our Lord Jesus Christ. So it's important that people understand that Satan is using his angel Donald Trump to put this army out there in outer space to regulate and to fight against Christ, the Lamb of God who's coming to judge the world. They need, and that armed force that they're putting out there, in that space force, whatever Donald Trump called it, that force is only out there to buy the elites time to get into their bunkers, to get into their holes in the mountains, to get into their little hideaways because they're scared of the destruction that's befallen upon them for all of the wickedness that they've signed their blood and name onto. That's what they are. They are a vagabond. But more than the vagabond, what they are is a fugitive. A fugitive is somebody who always commits crimes but always runs away from the judgment of the crime. That's who they are at nature. And the vagabond, it's someone that never stays at home. Always in other people's lands, trying to steal their natural resources for themselves. They've got the wicked eye on every nation upon here, on the earth. But every nation upon the earth is drunk through their philosophies. No one can see straight, apart from very few that are against its policies, because they can see plainly. They are the authors of the destruction of the world that we're living in today. They are the complete authors of the destruction that are going to be full upon the earth. So, these scriptures here, just trying to open up that airwaves and trying to get the frequency out there to the people, that if you are drunken by the philosophy of this country, of all these Western countries, you are definitely going to be destroyed, because we can't have filth up in the kingdom of heaven. In the kingdom of God, you can't have filthiness or a dirty philosophy to corrupt the people. We don't want that. If you can't get your mind right and get out of the asses of this Western society, of this Western mentality, where women are usurping authority over men, where there's no order. It's totally chaos. Men can become women, women can become men can marry men, women can marry women. This is utter confusion and totally destructive to the foundations of mankind. And one of the most prevalent things I've spoken about is a woman that hates men, becomes a lesbian in this society, and then gets with a woman who dresses like a man and puts on a dildo. If anyone could follow that train of thought and tell me where the logic and the rationale comes from that, please drop a line and let us know, how do you come to that understanding? A woman that hates men, because men are bastards, apparently the way that's being depicted, all men are bastards and men can't do this, can't do that, right? We're the worst scum of the earth, and rightly so. Some men, because the laws of God have been neglected in this country, yes, they are packs of shit. Yes, some men are wrong, but that's because they strayed away from the order that was given by the Heavenly Father, not because men are fucked. It's just because the order of the Heavenly Father was not carried out on earth. The doctrines and the philosophies of men, that's what was carried out. That's why all manners of lust are portrayed in this country. But even so, instead of women trying to find themselves men that are following the statutes and commandments of God so they can be under their tutelage, no, they rather wipe off a complete species of sex, okay, and now go for the same sex who dresses like the man that they hate and that put on a strap-on and dildo to have intercourse with them. This is utter destruction. They are fucked in the head. There's no other way to express it. Pardon the pun, pardon the expression, but there's no other way to express how crazy the world that we live in today. And people applaud it these days. It's just like the Caitlyn Jenner bullcrap. It started off now, but they gave a man who dresses as a woman, okay, a man that dresses as a woman, they gave him the Female Award, the Female of the Year award. But in the same magazine and the same articles that they wrote that year, okay, they called Serena Williams a man because of her body. She had a manly figure. They called her a man. This is the madness that has been prevailed in this society. And you gotta tap off. You know, me personally, I've tapped off. I can't stand the fucking hypocrisy and the great destruction that is upon this earth. It's completely utter madness. And people out here are just going on their business, watching the destruction of this world, just going on like, oh, welcome the destruction, but no one's fighting against it, no one's speaking up against it, because you can't speak against gays, the faggots. You can't speak against the lesbians. You won't be able to speak against bestiality soon. You won't be able to speak against pedophilia soon. All of these things you won't be able to speak because it would be violating other people's civil rights, right? Because pedophiles have got rights now. Huh? This is utter destruction and utter hypocrisy of this society. That's why the Americans and the Australians and the Germans and all of these Caucasian nations, they feel that they have the right to go into other people's lands and do whatever they want with their resources and try to gain control of the other people's resources mainly, but to do whatever they want, okay? And they're people in their own country who are the most hypocritical and dumbest and the most crazed out people out in the whole world. They're the basis of all mankind. They're the most deprived. The stupidity and the utter hypocrisy in these lands are beyond imagination. Okay? But in their own country, they have all of these issues, but they feel that they are superior. They feel they can go into other people's lands and then demand and just stand over people, pretty much, when they've got this destructive and vile fucking decrepit fucking imagination. Okay? So, just wanted to bring those two scriptures out, but I've got a couple more too. Like, we want to talk about. This is what the so-called Caucasian race out of the caves, out of the Georgia, Russia. If you look at Caucasus Mountains, that's where they come from. That's where the so-called white race resides from. That's where they originate. That's where they lived for, or they were pushed after the Roman Empire. That's where they were pushed back to, the Caucasus Mountains in Georgia, Russia. That's where they lived for nearly a millennia. Okay, for a millennia, and it's only in the Renaissance era where they come out of there. Okay, now that's not to say there wasn't white people in Europe. There was, but they were scattered. They weren't a nation of people. Okay, you had them all in the outskirts of Europe and stuff like that, but it wasn't when they started infiltrating parts of this, and they started infiltrating parts of Europe, that they started revolting against the black people that were there in Europe, that they came into power, which is the Renaissance, which is what, if you really know and look into the Renaissance, it actually means the rebirth, which is why which is how you see the same things that happened during the Roman Empire, how it had a vast army and how it operated itself, the same operations that was happening in during the Roman Empire, which was what depleted in 193 AD for Septimius Viserys. But it's only Renaissance, which, like I said, which means rebirth, that they rose up again. And then you see him going through the Russian icons, Russia. You see him going through. You see him go through France. It was Holland, Denmark, and the Scandinavian parts. And then they went into France, and then they had Greece. They had Italy, Romania, all of them places there, and then they went into the places where you see the Ottoman Empire, because the Ottoman Empire never was destroyed until the 1940s with World War II. So let's get back to the scripts so we can understand exactly that this nation is totally against God's people, and that's why you see the devastation and the disorder you have in the planet Earth that we have today. This disorder comes from black people being downtrodden, which are the true judges of the earth. The people that are actually going to comply and put the order back into the earth are the people that are most disadvantaged. That's why the world is in so much chaos. So this is Psalms 83. And we're going to start in verse 1. We're going to read down a bit, but we're just going to read. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of the Lot, Salah. Now, this just goes on about a few nations that we need to revisit that and unpack those couple of verses that I read. That needs to be unpacked really, really good, because there's a couple important things that are said here. Okay, I'm going to start back at 1, and I'm going to give it a breakdown. Keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. So this is King David in the Spirit of God, letting us know that this is the call that he's trying to make of what we see now, the awakening of Israel. This is God not being silent, because we're not going to be silent anymore. We're going to call upon God to come and bring justice to the world. Okay? We're going to continue to call upon God to make sure that all the wrongs are going to be rewritten as right by just people that can actually look at and analyze a circumstance and judge it righteously. Because as you see today, with all the fake news and all of the propaganda that the so-called Americans put out to the world, they provide chemical weapons to terrorists. The terrorists explode the bombs and they blame it on the government of Syria. This is the total hypocrisy. It's been proven that they fund these terrorists. They're so supposedly are against terrorists, but they are funding them and training them overseas. This is the utter hypocrisy. That's why they are the seed of Satan. Because these people, they see that it's just in their minds. They don't see anything wrong with it, with going to another people's nation, okay, putting a base in a country that never called you for any help. They see that they invited themselves into that nation, created bases all over that nation so they can support terrorists, okay? And then in their own countries put out in the news that they're against terrorists. This is the utter hypocrisy of this nation. This is the evil seed. This is the serpent seed. When you read about the serpent seed in the book of Genesis, this is them. They are here to manifest or realize all the deeds of Satan are being carried out by this nation. That's all they delve in. They delve in lies, deceit, and that's who they are. They are the seed of Satan. And all the lust of their father they will do. They will continue to do all of this because that's who they inherently are. They never deviated from their plan, which is to be the children of Satan. That's why they cause so much devastation. They came here and completely nearly genocided a whole people of Aborigines, okay? And they don't see, none of them see anything wrong with stealing all of the gold till this day. They're still keeping the same traditions that their forefathers who murdered and raped and robbed and killed these people. They don't say nothing wrong with still taking their diamonds out of the ground, out of the land that is not theirs. They don't say taking the opals, taking the gold. They don't say nothing wrong with it. That's the utter hypocrisy. And they still walk up and down these streets like this land belongs to them. No, it doesn't. Okay? This is why God has to come and exact punishment, because the Aboriginal people don't have a military, number one, and they don't have an economy because they are still stealing their gold. They're still stealing their diamonds. They're still stealing their oil. They're still stealing the iron ore. They're still stealing all the resources that comes from this land belongs to the Aborigines. Doesn't belong to anybody else but the Aborigines. Anything that's in this land or in this island called Australia belongs to the Aborigines. Not to anyone else. No corporation, nobody else has any rights to those things. Those things belong to the Aborigines. But the so-called Caucasian people cannot see anything but as theirs because it's a victim. And the Australians that are walking the earth today, the so-called Caucasians, okay, they don't say nothing wrong with it. They think, oh, it's fine. No, our foreparents, that's why they've got to die for it. Because if they saw anything wrong, they would give it back to the Aborigines and ask for forgiveness. That's the right thing to do. Like if I was to steal somebody's phone, like if I was to steal anything from somebody, and the police catch me, they make me give stuff back to them. I got to pay for it. I got to pay victims of crime. I got to pay compensation to the people. I got to compensate for what I took from them. Okay, and then I also got to pay by going into prison for paying for a specific amount of time. Okay, for the crime that I committed. That is justice. That is so-called justice. But no, they steal a whole land of the people, still take their resources. Fair enough, they weren't the ones that stole it, but they still continue the same systems and practices that their foreparents created, like stealing all the gold off the land, That's another people's gold. If you weren't continuing the same, if you didn't want to be part of the crime, if you didn't want to be part of the judgment or the penalties for the crime, don't be part of the crime. You've got to give the land back to the people and apologise, and then maybe there's some reconciliation, but they'll never do that. They will never. That's why God has to come here and set the order back up by taking the land off of them, giving them back to the righteous owners, and then putting the people that are in subjection today and making them clean up what they messed up by serving the people that they are over today. That is righteousness. That is how you put back order on the earth. All the pollution, the Great Barrier Reef is being decimated by all the pollution that the so-called white man, because of the systems that the white man has. They're decimating the Great Barrier Reef. It's supposed to be a wonder of the world. But they're completely decimated because that's all they do. They destroy not only people, but nature, the trees, the animals. Everything gets decayed when the so-called white man comes into touch with it. Because they are opposite to life. They are literally death walking the streets. Now, getting back to this, for lo thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. Now, God has enemies on the planet. This is what we are not understanding. We, because of the vibe of Christianity and Islam, these two religions, Christianity and Islam, they say that God is for everybody, when He's not. Because from the start, God has already said that He's already got enemies on the planet. He created people to be against them. Just like He created good people, He also created bad people. And they were bad from birth. They were created to be bad. The so-called white race, okay, they were created to be bad, to be against life. They are death on two legs. They are nothing but death. Everywhere they go, they bring death. The systems, the politics, the education, everything is against death, against life. They are death. Now, if we want to eradicate death and have a world full of life, we need to get the people, or the cancer that's on the earth, plaguing the earth with death. These people went into Iraq and put sanctions on Iraq and killed 500,000 children before the Iraq War. This is even before the Iraq War. Okay? You gotta understand how fucked up that is. Okay? Now tell me, what did the Iraqi children do to deserve that, to warrant that kind of treatment? Just explain to us. What did the Iraqi people, children, let's just talk about the children. Forget about the people. Let's say the adults, they at least live life. The children, just talk about the children. They didn't make policies in their country. They had no power. The people that had no power in their country suffered. 500,000 children. Okay? These were of the cause of the sanctions that the Americans put on Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction, when they didn't have any. Off a lie, 500,000 children. What did those Iraqi children do to warrant that kind of punishment? Apart from being born in Iraq, that's the only crime. To be born in Iraq, you could die for it. That is utter hypocrisy. How these people can justify killing children. 500,000 before the war. It's over. The tally now is 1.1 million children have died to date since 1996 because of the cause of the wars. The direct cause of the wars and the sanctions. 1.1 million children. This is in 20 years. Okay? This is because of the direct cause of the war. Not talking about dying from other things, just talking about the direct causes of war, by not letting medication come in, but as direct causes of war. The universities have come up with a study with that calculation, with those numbers, and those numbers are being kind, I guarantee you, because if they're reporting those numbers, I reckon, my things, because of how wicked these people are, I reckon there could be more. But we've got to go. I don't know I can't. That's just my opinion. That's just me speculating. So, you take it whichever way. But that's just my opinion. Apart from being born Iraqis, they killed them. For what, man? For greed? For power? Why would you kill children for power? Children are supposed to be this innocence. can you look at a child and just murder for power? A child. This is who they are. They're enemies of God. They're contrary anywhere that you want to see life. You can't invite these people, man. They are the border of wickedness. They do Satan's job out here on the planet. They are the manifestation of death on the planet. Now, this is the most important part about this, is talking about what we originally started talking about, is the United Nations. Right? Now, this here goes into that. They have taken, this is verse 3, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Now, this is very, very telltale. That's the UN. That's why we started it. That's the UN. When they sit there at the UN, there's no one speaking for the poor. For example, when the Australian people go and sit at the UN, who's speaking for the Aboriginal people? Can I ask? Who's out there at the United Nations speaking for the Aboriginals, who are the most deprived and decrepit people in this country? Who's out there talking about the plight of the Indigenous people by having their land stolen and all their resources stolen, and they don't even have a pot to piss in? My brothers walk up and down the street, hammered by drugs, alcohol, plighted by all of these things, and then persecuted by the police. This is how Aboriginal people are looked upon in this country. They're looked upon as scum when they're supposedly the world's best people. But in this society, they look down as scum. Why? Why don't they look at Indians like that? Indians are black people. Why don't they look at Indians like that? Why do they look at Aboriginals like that, but they don't look at Indians like that? It's funny. It's funny how that happens. You know why they don't look at Indians like that? Because Indians got a government. The Indian government, or the Indian people, they've got a country. The Indian people, they've got an economy. And most importantly, Indian people have got a military. And guess what that military has? Nuclear bombs. If Australia fucks hard enough with Indian people, even though it's suicide, Indian people can wipe out all of Australia if they fucking feel like it. Yes, it would be suicide because Australia is aligned with America. So America will return that favour by decimating India. Yes, we all know that. But not before India decimates Australia. Australia's got nowhere to hide. Every single one in Australia would be under the thumb of India, under the bombs, the nuclear ICBMs, the intercontinental missiles, okay? Intercontinental ballistic missiles, okay, that Indians got in its arsenal. So if India wants, they can kill all 24 million people. They can kill about 10 million in the strikes, in all of the strikes, and then the 14 million will die on the fallout and the nuclear radiation afterwards. Easy. They can clearly do that. And all they got to do is do the major cities. Do the major cities, and that's it. That's why Indians look like fuckwits. I know Australians don't like Indians, but they won't fuck with Indians. If two or more Indian cab drivers die, the Indian consulate calls Canberra straight away, mate. The capital territory, and he speaks to the ambassador. If that ambassador gives him cheek, mate, and starts giving him attitude, guess what? India will fuck Australia up. That's why when they speak diplomatically to Indians, because they've got a government and a military, they deal with Indians accordingly. Because they know that Indian can press that button too and decimate every single Australian. They can do it. And that's why. That's how they get respect. That's how a nation gets respect. But the Aboriginals don't have that. That's why they don't give a fuck about Aboriginals. That's why no one speaks about the Aboriginals in the United Nations. That's why they don't need to speak about the plight of the Aboriginals and all of the tribulations they have to go in life out here. That's why the Aboriginals are treated like the way they're treated. And the Aboriginals don't even realise that they are God's chosen people. They are above these people. These people are above them because they neglected their God. That's the only reason why. That's why these people were able to take crafty counsel against them. But the Aboriginal people, they don't care. They don't care that God... They'd rather just go by the program. Because majority of my people, they don't care. They don't care to serve God. And that's why they're going through the tribulations. Because they're strayed away from their power source. The only thing that gives them power is their God. But they don't even know him. Because they've been neglected. They've been separated from him. They need to tune in and tap back into the source of their power. And once they do, our Lord, our Messiah, will come back and put order back in this land. That's what he was designed for. That's why he came here and gave himself up for that. Okay? But my brothers, they don't care. They don't seem to care that their Lord is asking them for them to return to them, to return to him. That's what he's really asking. He's asking them to come back to him. Okay? He needs to know that they love him. And the only way they can show that they love him is by following his laws. Just like any father. Any household. Okay? Or majority of the households, they grow up with fathers. Because most of my people, most of my indigenous people, we don't have fathers in our households. Because of the conditions that the so-called white man put us under. Most of our fathers are in jail or, just leave the family because of the madness of this world. But if you're lucky enough to have a father in your house, your father's supposed to put order in your house. Right? Just like the Heavenly Father. He gave us laws for us to follow. You don't follow them, you are subject to his punishments. And that's what we're under. As a nation of people, we are under his punishments. Whether you like it or not, we deserve it. We got to hold our hands up and get ourselves right. That is our job. That's what we don't acknowledge. That's why my brothers walk up and down the street lost as a fucking rodent. They don't know they don't know their left from right. They don't know their up from down. They don't know hot from cold. Because they are under this. They are drunken by the wine of this civilization, of this country. They need to see it for what it is. The people that are above them, that are controlling and creating all of the laws that oppress them, creating all of the philosophies and all of the things that oppress them, those people are deaf. Don't follow none of them. Don't follow. You got to follow their laws, of course, because you don't want to get yourself in trouble. Okay? Just as long as you don't disrespect our Father, you got to follow their laws, but don't follow their philosophies. That's the thing that's got us thinking. Some of our indigenous people believe that two men can get married. They applaud that. That goes right against our Father, our Creator, our power. How are we going to get power to defeat our enemies if we are riding along with our enemies? This is what kills us. This is what destroys us as a nation. This is what destroyed us as a nation. Is we lost power with our power for not following his laws. So the only way we can get power again is by following his laws and getting back right with him, so he can come and fight for us. But our brothers don't care. They couldn't give a shit. They just care about, I do what I got to do. I do me, son. I do me. I do what I got to do. Don't worry about us as a nation or as a people. And that's our destruction. That's why God himself said that 2/3 of our people have got to die here, man. 2/3 of our people have got to die here because they will never learn. No matter how many chances, how much mercy, how much grace I give them, they will still follow the philosophies of man, of that so-called dreadful man, or the son of perdition. Death on two legs. Our people will always follow in his philosophies instead of following our power. The only way we're going to get power is by following the laws of our power, so we can get right with him. But our people much rather go smoke pot, get drunk, do all types of drugs, all types of decrepit shit. And that's exactly what's going to defeat us. That's exactly what's going to give them reign over us. So we need to stick staunch and come back as a people and unite as a people instead of, continuing the philosophies of all these other nations who are just here to destroy us, just to cause confusion between brother and brother. Okay? So that verse there is very, very telltale that we've got enemies and no one ever speaks up for us. No one ever speaks up for us. Like I said, when the United Nations sit down and they have representatives from all of these nations, and there's a flag there with a little sign saying Australia, who's out there speaking for the Aboriginal people? Like the verse says, no one. That's where they concoct policies and laws to actually deprive the Aboriginal people of any type of freedom, economic freedom, of any type of military might. Because the first thing that if Aboriginal people have access to funds and have their own economy, okay, do you know what they're going to do? They are going to create themselves an army and hopefully get themselves a ballistic missile to fucking bomb the fucking Australians. They'll bomb Parliament. That's why they're scared. That's why the so-called Caucasians are scared. Because Indigenous people, we want revenge or tribulation to come upon those who caused them so much angst for all of these 230 years. Anybody would want revenge for doing what they did to their families, to their ancestors. That's just righteous anger. Aboriginal people, they're not crazy for wanting revenge, which this society says so, right? That they're crazy. You can't change nothing. That was the past. No, they're not crazy. They are right. You should want revenge. That is righteous. Okay? What is crazy? Okay? What is crazy is for you not to want revenge. Okay? You should want to pay those people back for what they did to you, what they've done to your people. Okay? That's what God said. Okay? Let's go to that. Let's go to that part of the scriptures that most people neglect, or so-called other people forget. Let's go. This is Deuteronomy 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. That's what God said. Never said to forget all of the atrocities, having Indigenous people chained up, stolen generation, little girls being raped, robbed, or pillaged, depriving them from their heritage, stealing their whole identity, stealing their whole heritage, burning them up, all of the artifacts, all of their history. What about all of that? That's how wicked these people are. They try to erase your history by making you follow theirs. And that's what you see today. The Indigenous people, okay? Indigenous people are following in the footsteps of the so-called Caucasian man. And look, even though it's not their fault, ultimately they have to pay for it. Now, we need to go back to Psalms just to finish that out. So we keep that. When it says they have taken crafty counsel against thy people, that is talking about how they sit there and all of the people that are deprived, like the Native Americans, they had their land stolen by the so-called Caucasian race. Same as the not only Native Americans, all the natives from North, Central and South America, they had their land stolen. Even to this day, they're still stolen. So all the resources that are in their lands don't actually belong to the Caucasian people or the oligarchy of those countries. They actually belong to the natives. Okay? The Maoris had their land stolen. The Samoans, Tongans, East Timorese, all of these people had their land stolen, South Africans, by the so-called Caucasian race. Because that's the power that was given to them. Okay? But no one, when you look at the governments, when you look at the people who actually go to the UN and represent these people that are being deprived, It's usually Caucasian people. And if it's not Caucasian people, even if it's one of them people, they are under the philosophy, or they are drunken by the philosophies of the so-called Caucasian people who took over them, so that when they go in there, they're not actually representing their people. They are representing their people. Meaning the so-called Caucasian people who are actually running the government. And a prime example of that would be like Haiti. Haiti was colonized by the French, and they had slaves. They had slaves over there, but the slaves revolted against them. And what happened? The slaves got kicked. The slaves kicked, murdered, and kicked the friggin' French out of their country. But Haiti is one of the poorest countries because these people wanted to have their resources for themselves, number one, and they wanted the people to stop oppressing them. Now the world has put sanctions on the people. They wanted to free themselves from the devil, under the tutelage of the devil. Just another sign to show you that these people are decrepit and vile creatures. They actually sanction, even to this day, a nation of people who freed themselves from the so-called Caucasians' tutelage, just to show you how decrepit they are, how evil and sadistic these people are. So these people don't have representation in the world, because even if the natives or the people who actually own the land are in government or in positions of power, they still have to answer to the so-called masters, like the IMF, the World Monetary Fund, the International Monetary Fund. They still have to answer to them, which is run by Caucasians. They are the world runners. They run the world. And they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. That's another important point. That's why these people that I just forementioned, like the Native Americans, like the so-called Aborigines, like the so-called Maoris, like the so-called, Central and South Americans, the so-called black people in America or western parts of Africa, they all had their names prior to being colonized. They called themselves certain type of names, and these names aren't being upheld today. And a prime example of that is Puerto Rico. If you look at that name in Spanish, Puerto Rico, it just simply translates to a port of riches. Do you actually think that Puerto Ricans call themselves a port of riches? Or did the colonizers, the people who docked their boats in their land, who stole their riches, call them a port of riches? That's how Puerto Rico came to be. That's how they named themselves, and that's how the whole world knows them, as Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans, which, like I said, it translates to a port of riches. You see? How can you call a people a port of riches? Who would call themselves a port of riches? No one would. Because that's not their identity. That's not what they call themselves. It's what the people who conquered them, killed, raped, robbed, maimed, and stole their land, call them. And that's the facts. That's what these people do. And the same people that did it to them, did it to the Aborigines, did it to the Maoris, did it to the Fijians, did it to the Samoans, did it to all over the world, to the South Africans, the Santomans, the Angolans, the Mozambicans, they did it to the Nigerians, they did it to all over the globe. That's how we know. That's a telltale sign. That's what we call in the scriptures a telltale sign. This is one of the signs that identifies who the seed of Satan, because they carry out all the satanic deeds. They are the seed of Satan. Don't look at them as individuals. When God was judging the Negroes, or the Negro part of the nation of Israel, what did he do? Did God come and just judge the bad ones? No. We all got judged as a nation. That's why we got put in slave ships and carried to all various parts of the earth. Because we fucked up as a nation. Not as individuals. We fucked up as a nation. When Aboriginals were overtaken or conquered or colonized by the so-called Caucasians, did only parts of Australia get conquered, or did all indigenous people? Are you trying to tell me that the 6-month-old and the 3-month-old, they're all bad people? No, but all of them got conquered. They got judged as a people. Same as the Maoris. They got judged as a people. You don't get judged individually. That's what they try to make you believe. Oh no, when the Bible speaks about the wicked ones, it's only talking about, no, it's talking about a nation of people, a race. It's a race of people. This is the interpretation that they're giving you to blow smoke in your eyes. So you don't understand when it's talking about the wicked and stuff. It's talking about a nation of people that will judge, not individuals. So stop looking at things individuals. Yes, there are times when God judges people individually. Yes, of course, because it doesn't warrant a nation to be judged for it. Yes, there are times. But if a majority of a nation is doing something that is completely decrepit and vile and against God, God will judge the nation because you cannot rise above your people. Prime example, Oprah is a billionaire, a multi-billionaire. I wouldn't say a billionaire is just that you got one. Oprah is worth like 2.8 billion. A multi-billionaire. Okay? But Oprah went to Europe and the shop clerk still racially profiled her. And she's a multi-billionaire. Still racially profiled. She did not rise above her people just because she's got money. Just because of her status. She went to Europe and they treated her just like another fucking nigger. So you don't rise above your people. That's what God is trying to show Oprah. Because Oprah might think that she's so... I rub shoulders with billionaires and stuff like that. That don't matter to God. You're just another bare bum in the shower. Just like Chopper Reed would say. Just another bare bum in the shower. And when it comes to judging a nation, that's how it is. That's how it works. You get judged as a nation. That's why you should be correcting your people. That's why so-called Caucasian Australians should be, as a nation, should be trying to give back what they've stolen. Even though they didn't do nothing, but they're going to be judged as a people because they're still continuing to steal today. They're still continuing the same practices that their foreparents created for them to be called Australians. They still continue the same practices. It's just they put a bit of lipstick and they put a little bit of lipstick and they put on a dress on a friggin' pig and sat at the table. It's still a friggin' pig. Just because you put lipstick on it doesn't change the pig. Okay? A pig is still going to remain a pig. Doesn't matter what you do to it, it's still a pig. So, for you to wash your hands of the blood that your foreparents have passed on to you, okay, you must stop occupying the land in which they stole unrighteously by murdering a people if you don't want the bad things to happen to you. But that's not going to happen. None of you see anything, none of you see past 2 feet in front of you. Nothing past 2 feet in front of you. Because it's all about the now, right? It's all about the now. But you laugh now, you got to cry later. And that's when judgment comes upon your doorstep. When judgment comes upon your doorstep, when you don't have, the Woolworth trucks stopping at your bloody shopping centres, when you have a famine and all of the atrocities that you let happen to all of these other countries abroad, and you never felt the pain of, are coming to your doorstep. Because whatever you sow, you got to reap. You got to remember that. You are complicit when your government sends F-14 fighter jets to bomb Syrian hospitals and Syrian people and killing children. And I know they do it all in secret and that, but you are complicit in that because it's your nation of people carrying these orders out at your behest. And if you're not out there washing the blood off your hands by picking up arms and fighting against your government, you are complicit. It's just like you watching, a little 10-year-old being raped by a man. You are complicit. If you don't report that man from the pedophilic and from that rape, you are complicit. Just because you didn't do nothing, you just watched him. You just walked past the alley or whatever it was, okay, and you watched him do that crime, and you didn't call the police, you didn't alert no one, you just went home. You are complicit in that crime. If there's CCTV footage of you watching that crime, and you walking home and going to sleep and you did nothing wrong but witness a crime, you will be convicted of accomplice to that crime. you will be convicted. If there's CCTV footage of you walking past that child being molested and you said nothing and did nothing, you are an accomplice to the crime. And that's the same thing happening here. You know that your country is a big advocate for all the atrocities that are happening in the Middle East, and you do nothing about it. Well, understand that when all of those things that your government is sowing overseas end up at your doorstep, you deserve it. Because you have an opportunity now to go and the only language your government's ever going to understand is you got to go in there by force. You got to pick up your guns, kill them all, bomb them, do whatever you got to do. Okay, that's what you got to do, and you won't get much pushback. They probably call the military on you, but you won't get much pushback because you'll be the same people as them. They don't want to cause any harm to you because you are the same people as them. It'll be their aunties, their uncles, and if you could create a militia in Australia, how are the armed forces going to fight against you when they're fighting against their own people? Their mothers, their fathers, their cousins are going to be on the opposite line. It's going to be a big resistance, and you'll be able to talk them down, most of the armed forces, because you're going to be reasoning them with facts, saying, look at all the blood that's in their hands. And then you take over that government and you give this land back to the righteous people. That's how you do it. That's how you wash the blood out of your hands. And then once you do it over here in Australia, get on your bloody planes and boats and go over there to New Zealand and do the same. You convince the public, the Caucasian public over there in New Zealand to do the same. Take over the people, and you join with them in militia and take over their government and give the land back to the Maoris, the people who belong in that land, whose lands it is. And you do that, and you create a wave, and you go all around the world, changing all of the shit that your foreparents have done and passed it on to you. Okay, you got to change all of that. Okay, clean the earth of all your dirty deeds and wash all the blood in their hands. And once you've done that, you take the big gun down. You take America down. Your big militia. By that time, if you do this, and you do it all over Europe, and you do it all over Africa, and you do it all over Australasia, and you do it over South America, your militia will be billion strong, easy, by the time you get to America. Okay? And once you get 1 billion people fighting the government, fighting the people, because America don't want to let go. America's got the top notch at the moment. Well, it's pretty much free countries that are holding the strength. America's got the military might, right? And then you've got England, who holds the economic might. Okay. And then you've got Rome, which holds the religious part of those three nations. They hold the doctrine with the Vatican. The Vatican's got all the pagan, all the gold from all of the conquests that they did in early colonial era, or the earlier time of the Renaissance, in the 1500s, when they started pillaging colonies. Rome still got all of that gold. That's why it's the richest religion on the planet. It's because it's sitting on billions and billions of dollars of stolen goods from all over the world. Artifacts, diamonds, all of those things belong to other countries. But yeah, by the time you get to America, with 1 billion strong of your own people, Caucasians, you can convince the militias and all the things that are already in place in America to take over their government, and you fight alongside them. And once you do that, you give back the lands to all the people, and then all of you people return back to the lands where you originally came from, and you serve them people like they had to serve you. And if not, well, before you serve them, you go on hand and knees and you beg them for forgiveness. Why? As to why your foreparents did that. Okay, you beg them for forgiveness, and then You offer your own neck. You offer your life up for what your foreparents did. You offer them your life. And then it's up to the indigenous people whether they want to take your life or have you work for them. That's it. That is justice. That is that's world peace right there. That's world peace right there. If you want world peace, that's going to happen. You offer your neck up and say, look, we deserve to die because, it took a long time. You were oppressed for such a long time and we didn't come to our senses till now. That's how you end all of the wars that you see, all of the atrocities that you see happening in the world. That's how you end it. But that'll never happen. That's why Christ has to come here and happen. That's why Christ has to restore order on the planet. That's why Christ has to come here and kill people. Because these people will never acknowledge the sins of their foreparents. They're actually proud. They're actually proud of what their foreparents did. Okay? They are actually really proud of what their foreparents did. And none of them will ever aim up and throw their hands up in the air and say, look at what they're doing to other people. No, because it's the pride in their heart. They're really proud of that. And that's that pride that's going to give them to... Because none of them could ever imagine Christ coming back to this world. That's one thing. They think it's just a story, and half of them are not even religious. Okay? They're atheists. And half of them can't fathom, an entity like Christ coming back on the earth to judge the earth and put order back on the planet. They can't see that. Okay? And that's why right now, that's how we know it's coming towards the end, because the pride is there. We see it clearly. And that's why all of this racism and all of these talks of racism is coming up. But once again, I just want to check the video. We'll probably come back a little bit later just to double check the sound. But yeah, so I just want to sign off in the name of Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai.